Next up, we have item 4, proclamations and awards. And we do have one award this evening that our police chief, Michael Berzin, is going to take care of for us. If you would, sir.
For mayor and council and audience, thank you for being here. You know, being the police chief, to have the opportunity to represent such a fine organization is an honor, but it's even a greater honor when you have persons in service to not only the council, but the community at large that does a fine job each and every day. And I think Sergeant Porter certainly fits that billing. But there are times when we are prepared to take on responsibilities that we don't normally see every day. And I'd like to recognize her for one such event. So I'm going to read the award nomination as I received it. And so without further ado, I'm going to tell you that on Monday, the 23rd day of October, Sergeant Porter, who was on her way home, I understand, wasn't technically still, responding to calls, was flagged down at the Bayou campgrounds in reference to a possible overdose. Upon arrival, she in fact observed a male lying on the floor in the front door of a home that apparently was suffering a poisoning or an overdose. She's got an excellent background, so I'm going to get off script a little bit. She's not just a police officer. She served in many capacities prior to being in service to our wonderful community here in Dickinson, and those things came certainly handy on this date. She took over medical care and received her Narcan, which is a blocking device for people that might have received poisoning from a drug known as fentanyl, which is, as you all know, is a problem in our country right now. She evaluated the patient, realized that the person was struggling to breathe, and if without administration of the Narcan, they would probably not survive. Using the Narcan that we all are provided in our patrol units, she gave them the prescribed dose and then monitored the patient's condition and realized that after several minutes allowing the initial Narcan to be utilized, that a second dose was going to be needed. So she recognized that too. Again, that's her training and her expertise coming to light. She monitored the patient until EMS personnel arrived and took over care, and the person was still unresponsive when the EMS persons arrived, but their respiratory ability had certainly improved due to her efforts. And her actions that day resulted in the saving of a life, and for that, she is certainly due for the department's life-saving award. And the fact that I'm looking at her honor bar, this is not her first rodeo, if you will. So she's already got one of these. Unfortunately, you don't get to wear two, and we don't really have hash marks, but I certainly am honored to have the privilege of working with you, and I know that the community is certainly grateful to have you in service to this wonderful community, and congratulations. This is where you get to speak. Oh, yeah. You don't have to.
Speech.
Uh-oh.
Speech. No? Okay.
Thank you for allowing us to do that.
All right. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to item 5, announcements and presentations. Announcements concerning items of community interest. No action will be taken or discussed. Council member comments regarding items of community interest in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.0415. Item 5A, council comments. We'll begin with Councilman, Schick, because since he is not here, your seatmate is not here tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody showing up. And again, for our fire department, police department, thank y'all for everything that y'all do. I was able to attend the mayor council meeting last week that was held in League City, and it was very interesting to see our other councilmen and mayors from surrounding cities. I attended an EDC workshop about some exciting events coming up for the city. I attended the EDC meeting itself. I supported the Blue Santa program. They had cooked fish at Novelli's, and I'm going to tell you, it was probably the best I've had. Another thing I'd like to bring up is Dickinson's fixing do their celebration for their 200th birthday. And I think it's only fitting that all the council maybe has a selection, maybe present some candidates that would like to work on the committee to organize this. And I don't think anybody would have a problem with that, but let everybody pick a couple of citizens that would like to enjoy that. That's all I've got. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Brantley.
Thank you. Welcome everybody that's here. Welcome everybody that's online. Thank you for being in attendance. Mr. Schick, thank you for your comments about the bicentennial. I would agree with that. I would like to, let's see. We did do the EDC open house last Thursday. I think it was a good event to be able to get out in the public some of the things that the EDC is working on. There are some exciting things coming up. We have both short-term and long-term projects that I think we're all very, very excited about. So let's see what else. This week for staff recognition, I would like to recognize, actually, I wrote down, I kind of have a list tonight because there's some unique accomplishments by our staff. First off, I'd like to recognize Miss Gina Vega for the work she's done in making Dickinson or converting Dickinson over to a court of record, whereas we weren't before. So congratulations, Gina. Thank you for your very hard work. I would also like to recognize Miss Sarah Clark for the job that she has done. She is, I've watched Sarah from afar, and I know how hard she works and the work that she has done to earn the position that she is in. So congratulations to you for being named our finance director over the interim finance director. So congratulations to you, and thank you for a job well done. Lastly, I'd like to recognize, I get to say this name a lot, but Alexis Santiago for the work that he does. So he works extremely hard. It seems like every time I get a call from a resident or someone who has an issue, it's something that Alexis has already started working on. So he does an excellent job. And one last thing I'd like to bring up and thank the city for providing the assistance with, and again, Alexis for the work that he did to make the project come to fruition. But that is for lighting the girls softball fields at Holbrook Park. So they that's something that they was sorely needed, and they had worked on for diligently for years and years and years. I know Miss Tammy worked on that, trying to get lights for the girls softball park. It was a true community effort, and we were able they were able to secure some lights out at their park. So congratulations to them. I'm excited about that. So that's all I got. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Townsend.
Yeah, good night. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Want to congratulate Chassie because I know this is at least the second time she's got awarded for a life-saving award in her position as a police officer. Also, want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Have a safe holiday weekend. The Festival of Lights are needing help on the Saturdays and Sundays up until it opens, and then they'll be working on the lights Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They take Thursday off for Thanksgiving, and again Friday and Saturday, so it can open Saturday night if you're available to help them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And Councilwoman Simpson.
Thank you very much. Hello, and thank you for joining us. We appreciate your input online and in person. I want to remind everybody about the Rotary Club of Dickinson Christmas Parade that will take place on Thursday, December 7th at 6 p.m. The parade route has been shortened in length a bit, and it will now begin at True Cross Catholic School, and it will end for spectators at the intersection of 517 and Yupon Drive. We ask for your patience as we get through the annual parade. I know it's a bit of a change. Please listen to the officers that are stationed, the Rotarians that are stationed, so that we can get through this smoothly. I've been working with Mr. Derek Hunt, Chief Bearzin, Mr. Oscar Soker, Sergeant Montgomery, Captain Jekyll, as well as Theo, and Miss Sylvia Perez at the True Cross School, as well as my co-coordinator, Taj. Thank you for all working together to ensure that this goes as smoothly as possible. If you stay tuned, we will definitely have some more detailed information about this coming up soon. I want to give a special shout out to the Dickinson ISD students and families from all 16 campuses who helped us raise funds for our annual Money for Meals campaign benefiting MI Lewis Social Service Center. Together, Gator Nation raised more than ever before with $25,407 raised to be donated directly to the MI Lewis Food Pantry to help their reach go even further. On that note, the MI Lewis Thanksgiving distribution event is this Saturday at 6:30 a.m. Help us give out meals and put a smile on your face before the sun rises. We need as many hands as possible to assist with a smooth distribution. I don't think anybody touched on this, but the Dickinson Police Department is also doing their Thanksgiving dinner on Saturday. I don't want to relay the time incorrectly. If anybody knows what time that one is, I think it's 9 to 1.
And I think
That's the Dickinson Police Department Thanksgiving dinner from 11 to 1 on Saturday. VFW Hall. Thank you very much. I forgot to write that announcement down, but I want to make sure we hit that one. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, Councilman Simpson.
Thanks, Mayor. Welcome, citizens. Good evening, staff, elected officials, those in person and online who are viewing this. Belated Happy Veterans Day to those who served. As one person said, when you serve, you write a blank check to the United States that can be cashed with your life at any time. So I do want to belated Happy Veterans Day. I wish everyone a safe and prosperous Thanksgiving holiday as well. Since the last meeting, last council meeting, I attended the Houston-Galveston Area Council Home Rule Caucus meeting and was elected again to serve on the board of directors. The Houston-Galveston Area Council is 13 counties, 129 cities, but it's only 37, 38 people on the board of directors. All the home rule cities with a population under 25,000 have to caucus together once a year to elect 2 representatives and 2 alternates. And I was fortunate enough to be re-elected to the board of directors for the Houston-Galveston Area Council. That's all my comments, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Move on to item 5B.
I'm sorry, I forgot the very top thing on my
Okay.
list, please. Just a reminder, December 2nd, Saturday, we're having the 4th annual lighted Christmas boat parade. Starts at 6 p.m. at Tropical Gardens and works its way all the way up to 646. We've secured some viewing areas. The Little League Park is one, the boat ramp. Cedar Oaks is another one. And I anticipate we'll have big crowds again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And move on to item 5B, the city manager update. I'll turn it over to our city manager, Theo Melanson.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I have a presentation coming up in just a second, but first, while we're getting that together, I wanted to let you know that we're moving along quite well on our 44th, 45th, Illinois, and Caroline Street improvement project. The contract date on that is April of 24 for completion, but we're looking at the construction completion and going into punch list in January. So we'll have about a 3-month opportunity to clean up whatever is we need to do there. Our biggest hurdle is if you are on 44th and 45th at Nevada, which is kind of an area to still tour up. We are working on a conflict with a center point gas line there. So if you're wondering why that has not been paved yet, we're finishing up working with Centerpoint to get them here to bury the line a little deeper than it is right now. So just don't drive too fast on Nevada, please. Wanted to take a moment, and Brian Brown is here with Goodman Corporation, and what we have is the transportation alternative set aside funding success. And so what we kind of have going on is, if you remember, we have a strategic mobility plan that is currently in its final stages, but Brian was gracious enough to kind of put the projects portion of our strategic plan forward so that we were able to start applying for grant funding, even though we hadn't finished the mobility plan yet. And so a lot of the work that you're seeing that you'll be seeing in this slide deck is really for a plan that hasn't even been adopted yet, but these were the projects that were in the plan that we had kind of shown. I think this goes back when I'm trying to remember when we presented. Was it March? Was it in March? Yes, in March we had shown you the 9 projects that were going to be in the plan. So, Ryan, you looks like you have the slide deck. I don't know if you want to speak or if you want me to, but I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, no, go ahead and talk through, and I'll be happy to add any comments or answer any questions.
Outstanding. Let's go. So one of the big things that to understand about the transportation alternative set aside, which this grant program has gone through many name changes over the time I've been a city manager, but some things don't change, and that's the 80-20 federal to local match involved here, and a lot of it deals with definitely on the mobility around schools is a huge portion of this. Now, one of the other things that really helps us I feel in this grant process is having as many major state roads running through the city, because and the lack of those mobility accesses for bicyclists and pedestrians. So there are many opportunities for us to improve those, with the schools being, many of them being on these major thoroughfares. So it's really good that we're able to kind of put that. Is that kind of?
You got it.
All right, thank you. All right, next slide. See, I can, he tells me things and I just regurgitate them. This is really a project, and I'm very proud of Goodman for is, as many of us know, many council members know, is that around the high school, the pedestrian safety is pretty poor. Some of you have even been eyewitness to pedestrian and car interactions. And so this project is really huge for us because it's going to allow us to have, and I'll let you kind of speak to the signalization portion of it, but there's going to be signalization at Owens and Baker that's going to be conducive for pedestrians to cross, with a pedestrian refuge in the center, and basically extending a sidewalk from 39th to 34th. Is it supposed to, is it extending the sidewalk? Is that what that one is?
Yeah, there is a stub that goes down to FM 517 from the edge of the school parking lot. So
Correct.
we're picking up there and taking it north to 34th.
Yeah. And if you could tell us a little bit about the signalization, and you can maybe talk about the funding portion of this one.
Yeah. Let's talk through the funding, and then I've got a little more detailed slides that'll help understand the signalization portions of it. So the total cost for the project is $3.5 million. With that 80-20 split, that represents TxDOT or the federal funding share of $2.8 million, with the city's local share of $700,000, and that does include cost for design and construction oversight and project delivery for this. So we hope that's close to an all-in cost. So looking first at Baker Drive, currently unsignalized intersection. There is a marked crosswalk that goes across the pavement of FM 517 there. Very dangerous condition, would not be designed that way today. So that was the first area of focus. And I want to say thank you to the citizens of Dickinson. I don't know who reported this to TxDOT, but when we started to get into this project, TxDOT said, yes, we've heard from the community for the need for some improvements here. So certainly appreciate you guys' activity in that regard. So there will be a full traffic signal put on FM 517 at Baker to control those movements. It will have standard pedestrian signals. Theo mentioned the pedestrian refuge, which is simply a safe harbor area in the middle of the street, so pedestrians or bicyclists get caught in between light cycles. They don't have to stand, too exposed to the oncoming traffic in both directions. There will be some drainage upgrades that will be needed to accommodate that. But really that was what we consider to be the main focus of this project, was to really get that intersection under better control and make it safer. Moving slightly to the east, there is an existing signal at Owens Drive. Not really looking to change the functionality of that intersection at all, but to make some upgrades to it currently. That signal is what they call a span wire intersection, which has got the cable running across the street with the lights attached to that. Those don't perform very well in storm events. and can come down a little more easy. So we're going to replace those with a mast arm assembly that will be a lot more durable and provide easier and higher visibility for those lights for the folks traveling through that area. But we're looking, like I said, to functionally keep that intersection the same. Here are some pictures that I took out here when school released one day in one of the retail parking lots across from the school. You can't really see the crosswalk in that photo, but that's in that area, mixing with dump trucks and school buses, and just a dangerous situation. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir on that one. Again, just a few more examples of that. Oh, and that is it. This didn't do a good job explaining the sidewalk connection, but I think Theo covered it earlier along Baker Drive, connecting up to the multifamily on 34th Street and making a safer connection for those folks as well.
Outstanding. So I thought this was a huge one. The fact that we're securing $2.8 million in funding on something that's been an existing problem for our students to traverse 517. This is huge. Leveraging funding, it's not that we have a ton of funding as a city, so it's very important to be able to tie these and get these force multipliers of funding so that we can actually fix multiple things instead of doing one thing at a time. Speaking of doing more than one thing at a time, I think we have another project that we're currently working on at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's on the next slide. I think it's our
Yeah.
FM 1266 reconstruction. I'm gonna let you walk through it a little bit, but for those of you that remember 1266, this started with unfortunately a tragedy that happened October of 2021, Halloween night. Ziona Jones being struck by a drunk driver. Not that these conditions didn't exist before, but it created an issue salience. All of a sudden, everyone was focused on it. And knowing that we have an elementary school, knowing that there's heavy truck traffic, which actually we really started learning more and more about because we were kind of looking at the regional goods movement grant along the way. That pedestrian truck traffic situation has been, really has really put a hyper focus on, at least to me, this project. And also knowing that, it straddles, it's right on one edge of Nicholstone, an area of town where people do walk a lot on the streets. As we're looking at California, as we're looking at Baker and, 1266, you're looking at major north-south arteries that then with city sidewalks could then have east-west connections between these major spines is the vision that, as I foresee it, in the future for that neighborhood, and to allow for safe traversing for pedestrians and bicyclists here. Before I turn it over to Brian, I know, Johnny, you were instrumental in helping. Would you kind of remind a little bit on the HGAC function of this and how you kind of got involved?
Yeah, the HGAC Transportation Council was responsible for distributing a little over $1 billion to various projects. We were able to secure $14 million of dollars for it, even though we were going for 52. We were still able to get 14 million from HGAC in order to go through this project.
And I believe Brian will be getting with you to get some more information on that disbursement. So what is good about that, and I believe did we get some confirmation from TxDOT that the HGAC portion would be counted as a local share? I can't remember which one of us had gotten that.
I'm going to have to follow up on that one.
I believe that TxDOT will actually use the HGAC portion as a local match in future grant. I'll have to look in my paperwork on that, but that would be huge for us if we can. What was that? Yeah, because then, that, 14 million would easily take a 20%, portion of this project. So that would be outstanding. Walk us through the project and how we got it designed and so forth, Brian.
All right. Well, thank you, Theo, and thank you for your leadership on this, Councilman Simpson. So yes, the vision is to completely reconstruct FM 1266 as it exists today. You all know it's a relatively long, straight road, very narrow pavement, very deep ditches, with a mix of pedestrians and bicyclists and buses and cars. And again, an unsafe condition, not something that would be designed that way today. So we are looking at taking it, knowing how TxDOT likes to do their facilities. They really want to go from one TxDOT facility to the next. So we look at the whole section between FM 517 and FM 646. Got some images in here of what it might look like. Okay, existing conditions. We can kind of go through these lightly. You all know what's going on. So what we would be proposing to do, you can see in these sections here, is to completely rebuild the roadway to be a concrete surface versus asphalt. Looking at putting a continuous left turn lane down the middle, so there would be a center turn lane. The length of the road, giving folks a safe place to exit the travel lane whenever they're turning left. Or if they need to abandon the travel lane for some other reason. But we'll maintain one vehicular direct lane in each direction. And you see the green strip and the outside, the gray area on the outside. Those are a future planning strip and 8-foot wide sidewalks on both sides of the street. To do that, we would be required to close in the open ditch, which requires us to add some pretty significant drainage infrastructure beneath the roadway surface. You would have what they call box culverts, which basically collect that water that would have been in the open ditch and send it to the nearest place to get it back into your watershed in a safe way. But all of that is really what is driving the cost of this project here, that $52 million. A lot of that is in the drainage needs that would be required to do this safely, but it adds in the benefit for the bicyclists and pedestrians to have their own dedicated space across or along the length of it. It would also completely reconstruct and improve the 3 existing signalized intersections at FM 517, Dietz, and FM 646. Here is, absolutely.
You mentioned the red lights. What about one at 29th or 30th in 1266? That's where we seem to have a lot of wrecks.
Okay,
Where that road comes in there and it ties in, and you got the grocery store on the west side of the road.
yes, sir.
We have a lot of wrecks at that one intersection.
Okay,
We don't have so many at 34th, but we have them there either trying to get in or to that store or going back into the neighborhood.
okay. Yeah, that is something that we could certainly contemplate as we move forward. We wanted to at least say that we would, upgrade the existing 3, but if there's an opportunity or a need for another one, that would certainly be considered.
As part of this, I mean, obviously this is all preliminary. Let's say, funding got put together and we were moving forward with the project, we'd have to do traffic impact analyses along.
absolutely.
And
We
we'd
do
be
a full
looking at
traffic
crash
study.
analysis. We'd be
Yeah.
looking at all that. At that time, then we'd be looking at, do we need to add lights? Do we need to change traffic patterns and things of that
And the
nature?
worst part about it is it's a bad intersection because I think it's 29th, or whatever it is, comes in here, but you have Edgewood subdivision offset
Mhm.
a little bit, kind of like what you have at Maple and 517 with the park. The way it's offset, only this is wider. So if you put a red light here, then you're gonna mess up that traffic trying to turn into that subdivision. So it's a bad intersection.
Yeah, and that would be definitely something we'd want to look at in that traffic impact analysis, because with that many crashes and things of that nature, it's going to come up in our data set. So we'd have to see how we want to address that for sure. So.
That's right. That's right. I think, yeah, that's kind of my last slide. On that, we have some other renderings and things for Dickinson Avenue that I can reshare with Theo and circulate to the council. Might give you guys a little better understanding of it. And, if anybody had questions, that might be a picture's worth 1,000 words. So.
Well, the big thing was to kind of give you guys a status update on some of these projects, especially ones that have gotten some funding, kind of where we are. We're still kind of working with TxDOT in regard to Dickinson Avenue. So we're going to be continuing kind of poking that bear a little bit. I'm very, we're all very passionate about, that getting that project through. So anything to add, Brian, before?
Just relative to HGAC, they are opening their call for projects on November 29th. And this, will certainly be included in that, and we'll work to keep everybody updated on the progress and hopefully deliver some good news sometime soon.
Thank you very much.
I've got one question before we get off there. Part of 1266 is in League City. Are we working with League City for their portion, or is this amount right here is just Dickinson's portion?
No, this would be the total project. So with the so let's say this ends up becoming a TxDOT HGAC solely funded project. Well, HGAC and TxDOT would be representative of both. The complication would be is that if there is going to have to be a local match, then we'd probably, and I've already talked with city manager of League City, just to let him know that this is on our radar and he understands the need for sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
League City.
Sure. And we'll be in touch with the county on that. They have a portion of it as well. It would also go back to if there's no need for a local match at all, then HGAC and actually TxDOT would probably be the liaison for all of us at that point, just because they would be the project lead and they technically represent all of us as a state agency. The main reason why I did talk with City Manager John Baumgartner was because they have that other signal, and but we'll work with the county too as if this thing starts really progressing where it needs to.
All right, thank you.
Did you have anything else in the update?
I was checking, but I think we got it all. So thank
Okay,
you.
great. All right, we'll move on to item 6, public comments. Members of the public are invited to give comments at this time, lasting not longer than 3 minutes. Comments may be general in nature or may address a specific agenda item and should be directed at the entire council, not individual members of council or staff. Any speaker making personal attacks or using vulgar or profane language shall forfeit his or remaining time and shall be seated. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council may not deliberate. We have one speaker this evening, Ms. Tammy Steenbarge.
Hi, my name's Tammy Steenbarge, 5109 Casa Grande Street. I came here tonight to talk about confidential information somehow coming out of this council. And on October 26th, the city of Dickinson posted a video, a made video of the mayor before his State of the City for about 2 hours. They removed it and then put up another one. I requested that original video in a PIR, and the city attorney has asked the attorney general for review, citing confidentiality of tax information and not open for public inspection. Unhinged and obsessed with 380 agreements and sales tax, the mayor has now compromised businesses' tax information and used his official position to obtain the information. On the city attorney, I asked for the release of the Jesse Prado investigation that has now been on 3 news articles, and 3 of y'all sitting up here gave statements in these articles referencing what you saw, read, and how it made you feel. But yet that's another one that has been sent to the attorney general for review, and it asserts communications were made in confidence. At the last meeting, Justin Pruitt and I talked, and it had been said that the city had not released any of that information to anyone. So, but yet 2 newspaper organizations have it and the police video. Why should the businesses and residents in Dickinson or in this area trust this administration? And it makes me wonder what other information is being spread around that we don't know about. Do y'all believe companies like Weekly Homes likes their business being used by this administration to debunk an organization? Really, there should be an investigation going on to who is leaking this confidential information. Why is tax information being, you had to know you did it. It was a pre-made video somewhere inside City Hall. you know? I mean, I think an investigation should happen. And I am going to write the Attorney General, and I'm also going to ask the Texas Comptroller to explain why is information being used like that?
Your 3 minutes is up.
Thank you. And y'all can add that to my RICO case.
All right, we'll move on to item 7, the consent agenda. The following items are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed after the consent agenda.
I like to pull E.
Well, okay, we'll remove item 7E. Is there a motion to approve accepting item 7E?
7E.
Yeah, you said 7E, right? Is there a motion to approve except for item 7E?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilman Simpson. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there a second by Councilwoman Simpson? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda except for item 7E, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to item 7E. Consideration and possible action to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Dickinson, Texas, authorizing the Texas Coalition for Affordable Power, Inc. to negotiate an electric supply agreement for deliveries of electricity effective January 1st, 2026. Authorizing TCAP to act as an agent on behalf of the city to enter into a contract for electricity, authorizing the city manager to execute an electric supply agreement for deliveries of electricity effective January 1st, 2026, and committing to budget for energy purchases and to honor the city's commitments to purchase power for its electrical needs through TCAP. Authorize the city manager to sign a professional services agreement and providing an effective date. Do we have a motion to
Move to
approve?
approve.
A motion to approve by Councilman Simpson. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilwoman Simpson. Any discussion? Yep. Councilman Townsend.
Got to ask you this yesterday.
Get your mic.
Got to ask you this yesterday in our meeting. I take this as kind of like an HGAC group.
Yes, sir. So this is a cooperative purchasing group of cities around the state of Texas that negotiate electricity on behalf of a coalition of cities to kind of have the buying power of numerous cities rather than, say, the city of Dickinson going out for, say, an RFP for electric services. So it's really kind of to be a cost saving measure. And usually the way they do it, one of the advantages of, say, a TCAP contract than versus normally what, say, a single city, unless you're like the city of Austin or something, that's a little different. They have the capacity a little differently. But whenever you have such a large coalition, you can negotiate longer contracts to have more stability over a longer period of time. Where normally, I've dealt with situations where, the electricity cost can maybe you can get like a fixed rate for, say, 2 years if you're a single city, where this one here kind of allows you, this would get you out to somewhere in the neighborhood of 2027, if I'm not mistaken. I was just making sure Sarah's the one who's been working on this with me. But so it gets us out to 2027, kind of a fixed rate. Makes the budgeting for that a lot easier than having to worry about the variable rates that can come up at certain times.
There was a section in there that had to do with a peak. They figured that we would never get past the peak with all the cities in there. But if we did, what is the penalty? 1 year or the whole year or the whole term of the contract?
I believe that would be on an annual basis because they're going to do it on a rolling, kind of like they'll bill it in that sense. At least when I talked with TCAP at TML, that's the way it was explained to me. I can get some clarification on the peak.
It's a 1 year rolling deal, so we have to pay the highest amount over the peak, just
Correct.
like the other ones that go over their peak
Correct.
for a year.
Yep. I'll get
Use it
clarification.
or not.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item 8A, public hearings and action items from public hearings. 8A, conduct a public hearing concerning a request for a specific use permit for group home in a conventional residential zoning district for approximately plus or minus 0.304 acres located at 2013 Dietz Road, legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin Sur, part of Lot 88, 0-8, Dickinson Edition D. We will convene the public hearing at 6:42 p.m. and we'll begin with the staff presentation.
Before we begin, council, I want to make you all aware. We were just informed a couple of minutes ago prior to the meeting that the consultant who'll be working on behalf of the applicant has hearing disability. And so if you could, when you do ask a question or have a comment, if you could please look up so that the consultant can read your lips to respond to your question. So thank you.
But not until 8B, because we can't. vote
Correct,
yet.
correct. I'm
Yes.
just saying when that time comes.
Understood. All right.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This property is located, on the northwest corner of Spirit of 76 and Deach Road. It is currently zoned conventional residential. And then what actually is being proposed is a group home for adult foster care. They are actually currently in operation with 3 residents. They're operating under the state code, but without the specific use permit, and they're wanting to expand that use. And so it's existing today. It's got, parking, multiple rooms, and this is what staff has. Thank you.
Before we continue, before we finish staff presentation, I know that we have some information regarding a possible plan unit development. Is that something that we have discussed with the applicant as of yet?
I mentioned it at this evening when she arrived. We're not making the consideration tonight until we can research that further.
Yeah. Can you just for the council's edification as part of staff presentation, can you explain? So there's a plan unit development rider that was found on the title. Can you kind of give a brief explanation to council?
It's slightly confusing because it looks like this plan development precedes our zoning code, so it doesn't exactly make sense. We need to find that document and read it and see what it actually is going to limit them to do. It may have been used for variances of some sort for setbacks and things like that, but until we have the ordinance and can review it and see it, we can't tell you how it's going to fit into the existing zoning.
And there is maybe a possibility that it's not even a City of Dickinson planned unit development.
Spirit of
possible?
76 was developed possibly before the city was Dickinson. And so I recently went to American Planning Association and met a lot of the planners in League City. So I do need to reach out to them tomorrow once office is open, see if maybe it's an ordinance that's League City's and not Dickinson's.
Just wanted to let y'all know that during staff presentations.
All right. Thank you. And we'll move on to the applicant presentation. If you would please be sure to give your name and your address. Name and address before you start, if you don't mind.
Would you like my office address?
That's fine.
So Kimberly Rodriguez, and my office address is 2101 City West Boulevard, Houston, Texas. And I'm sorry, I do not know the zip code. I operate out a couple.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. And so, thank you for having me today. I am Kimberly Rodriguez, and I'm a former state inspector. And so I'm a representative hired on behalf of the client. And so I do have the client here as well, Mr. Britton. Mrs. Britton is not able to make it today. She is currently ill for needing surgery. Okay. Information about myself. And so I was born into assisted living. I'm a social worker and my focus is geriatric care. I've been a former state inspector, and so I operate out of 3 different states. As a consultant, I operate out of Virginia, Texas, as well as Florida. And so I have been a state inspector for 10 years for assisted living programs in the state of Virginia. And I have been assisting real estate investors and large capacity facilities in assisted living here in Texas for the past 3 years. I'm the owner of Action Over Words Group. And so we provide multiple different services focused on senior care services such as placement, regulatory compliance, licensing, education, investing, and multiple different things and resources for the community and assisted living facilities. My office is located in Houston, Texas, and I operate and I service all of Texas. I want to clear up some misinterpretation that a lot of people have with senior living programs. And so there are multiple different programs throughout Texas, throughout the various different states. And so what assisted living and what senior living is not, it is not a group home. Group home is termed specifically for those who have mental and intellectual disabilities and capacities. And so it is not a boarding home, which boarding home focuses on rooms for rent and they do not provide care. It is not a recovery home, which is focused on those with sobriety, not wraparound supportive housing or anything like such as transitional housing, which is based on short term, anywhere from 1 day up to 120 days. It is not homeless housing or shelter, and it is not reentry, which focuses on jail services. The types of programs, and so for the definition, the concept that encompasses a range of housing and lifestyle options for aging persons adapted to the challenges of health issues associated with aging, such as limited mobility and illnesses. And so the average age for those who are in senior care, the average is typically going to be 65. You will find as low as down for 55 and up. And typically there are going to be those who are infirmed, frail, and disabled and require day-to-day oversight and support and care. Assisted living, the different programs is going to be adult foster care, adult daycare, continuing care community, which are those communities that have where you can enter at a certain place and then you can just age in place as the resident declines, and so they do not have to move out. Programs of focus for adult foster care. The program here focuses the foster care, which you have Mr. and Mrs. Britton's home. The definition by the Texas Health and Human Services is 24-hour living arrangement with supervision for adults who are unable to continue to independently live in housing. The foster care providers and the residents must live in the same household and they need to share the same common living area. So you have a house, which basically the term is foster care. Foster care is very similar to child foster care, where you have a person who owns the property or you have someone who lives in the property. So this specific for adult foster care based on the Texas regulations, the owner of the property must reside in the property. And so it's a foster care. They eat together, they do their activities together. They have holidays and traditions and things. It is a very much like a family setting. And the adult foster care is licensed by Texas Health and Human Services. Who lives in adult foster care? The owners of the home, which are also the caregivers and additional staff, the elderly, infirmed, or disabled persons, adult foster care residents. They oftentimes don't have family that are local. So oftentimes, so here in Texas, they can have family members, in different states that may not be available to be able to assist them and see the needs, that their needs are met on the day-to-day. So the foster care is basically the caregivers are at that time, they have adopted additional grandparents. And so that is what we're looking at when we're looking at adult foster care. The adult foster care proposal, I have met the individuals and the owners, and so they're loving and caring. It is a loving and caring fostered environment, very small and it's structured. We have activities that cater to basically the different cognitive impairments that some of the residents that reside on may have. So just activities to ensure that the residents are constantly stimulated using their memory, their mind. 100% state licensing and regulated by the Health and Human Services Licensing Division. 24 hours provider oversight, medication, meals, care, and activities of daily living. Family-centered environment. The benefits that adult foster care offer. And so less emergency services calls. And so when you are in an adult foster care or any other assisted living environment, we are being more proactive. So we're making sure that we're encouraging fluids, making sure that we're providing oversight in the medication, making sure that they're being hydrated and things like that. So we definitely have less emergency service calls because we're always providing a lot more oversight. Affordable housing and care services for the community. And so when you're in adult foster care, the cost is kept very minimal. in order to be able to, that the residents ensure that they can be able to afford the care and the cost of living to living in that type of arrangement. It allows the individuals to be able to age in place. Activities that are appealing to the senses, enhancing cognitive improvement and functioning and abilities. It's a fostering environment with social interactions with similar peers. One thing I do want to go back is actually, I'm going to go back on here. There was one slide that I actually added to update, and I don't see it on here, but I'm just going to go ahead and just add some of the information. And so there was a couple of things that I did want to make sure that basically it's kind of the common questions that are frequently asked about the specific property. And so in terms of, one is basically in terms of the HOA or, does this facility have to adhere to a HOA or anything like that? So the information that we have is basically that the property does not actually have a true HOA. They do have a voluntary HOA, and based on the guidelines for the state of Texas, the volunteer HOA, any resident or any person who owns a home in that voluntary HOA is able to opt in or opt out at any time. In terms of, there's a lot of times the questions that have been presented in terms of if there's any deed restrictions on the property or anything. So the clients who own this property have resided here since 2016, and we have not had any documents in closing or any documents that have been presented showing that there are any deed restrictions on this property. The impact on the community. And so there's a lot of questions and concerns about whether it would actually bring down the value of the properties around. When you have a business that operates specifically providing adult care services, the beds are generally sold. If that facility is sold, the beds are typically sold at $100,000 per bed, which it increases the actual property value. And that actually transfers to the sale of the property because it's completed in one transaction. And the additional, which also the property does have to appraise for that. Also the continued maintenance of that actual property because it does have to be serviced regularly. The property does have residents in care. And so they are operating in capacity and under the state guidelines of a personal care home, which is allowable and permissible. And so in the state of Texas, you're allowed to have 3 residents in care and not have to secure a license. The reason why the family at this time is requesting the special use permit is because we would like to be able to be licensed and go above that third resident. And the final thing that I do want to touch in terms of parking for the facility. And so we do have physician orders. The residents that are in care, they are not able to operate any vehicles. And we are able to actually put that in the policy, and we are able to assess and have that in policy that the facility does not accept what the facility cannot allow any vehicles for residents to be stored on the property. Also, what we have worked out is to ensure that we have condensed the home health agencies. So we just have one home health agency, which the home health agency is allowed. We have one home health agency that's allowed to service up to multiple different individuals. So ensuring that there will be no issues with traffic or anything like that, or to also try to reduce the amount of traffic that's coming in and out if there's any.
All right. We can't ask you any questions during the public hearing, so thank you. Oh, is there more to the, oh, okay. I didn't know if you were coming up to talk. All right. The next item is public comments. There is one comment signed up. Did you actually mean to sign up for this? It says 8C, but I don't think you're here for that. Yeah, if you go ahead and come up, please give your name and your address.
My name is Dr. Ari Davis. I live at 2910 Spirit of 76 Drive in Dickinson, Texas. Mr. Mayor, honorable council members, I don't have much to bring to you today. I know that you have a very difficult task. You know, you are tasked with balancing the needs of your variety of constituents, right? You have a petitioner that has a change that they would like to be made. And they've got a very nice presentation from a business development firm. I'm just a citizen that lives here. I try to do good by my city. I serve on a couple of commissions. I serve on building standards and the Board of Adjustments. I'm a homeowner. My front yard directly abates the backyard of the property in question, right? I'm coming to you today to ask you to vote no for this change. And I only really want you to ask one question of yourself. If the house next to your house wanted to do this, would you vote yes? Would you allow this to occur next to your house? Because when my wife and I bought our house, we had no expectation of a business suddenly going in. And reading the material from the city, you know, they say that this will not substantially change the nature of the neighborhood. Well, Spirit of 76 is one street. It's only 6 houses. A change in one house will substantially change the nature of the neighborhood. And I know that some of you may have already made up your minds and decided that, you know, the city doesn't want to face any consequences they might face by voting no on this. But just ask yourself, would you want this next to your house in your neighborhood? Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. There is also an applicant rebuttal if you so choose. To any of the comments, you don't have to, but you can if you'd like. It's up to you. No? Yes? You can, if you want, you can have an app. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me speak up. You can respond to what was just said if you want to, but you don't have to. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Take your time. All right. With that, we'll adjourn the public hearing at 7 p.m. and move on to item 8B, consideration and possible action concerning a request for a specific use permit for group home in a conventional residential zoning district for approximately plus or minus 0.304 acres located at 2013 Dietz Road, legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin, sir, part of Lot 88, 0-8, Dickinson Edition, D, first reading. On this item.
Move to table.
Right, there's a motion to table by Councilman Simpson. Is there a second? Second. There's a second by Councilman Brantley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to item 8C. Conduct a public hearing concerning a request for a subdivision variance from Appendix A subdivision, Section 6, plat requirements and procedures, subsection G, final plat, subdivision plat, requirement of the City of Dickinson Code of Ordinances, with such variance allowing the final plat to be considered prior to the subdivider completing all subdivision improvements and the administrative official approving or accepting the construction improvements. We will we will convene the public hearing at 7:01 p.m. and begin with staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is Bayou Lake Section 5. The preliminary plat was approved by Planning and Zoning Commission, and they have submitted their civil infrastructure plans. What they're wanting to do is to get the lines put in. They actually need the final plat approved by council. While we're going through this process, we're not going to record the plat until it actually has gone through all of the civils being constructed and that infrastructure being approved or accepted by the city.
If I can add a little bit, so what's going on here, and I'm sure Mr. Ross will be able to explain his conundrum that he's in. Our ordinances, which are currently being updated as we speak in this Unified Development Code process, basically say that a final plat cannot be, a final plat can only be approved and recorded once all of the infrastructure has already been installed. The problem with that is that I believe it's CenterPoint Electric Utility basically is not even going to put Bayou Lakes Section 5 on the list to be able to get electricity installed until a final plat is approved. Now, that's where the not recording it, that's the one thing that we have, is that we're not going to record it with the county until all of the infrastructure is approved. But we're kind of in a chicken or the egg situation where CenterPoint won't even put them on the list for infrastructure extension without a final plat approval. We can't, by our ordinance, without a variance of council, approve a plat without all of the infrastructure having already been installed. So that's where we're at. Did that pretty much summarize it? Okay.
Yes, you
Just
did.
wanted to make sure. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Next is the applicant presentation. If you please give your name and your address.
Michael Ross, 310 Woodstream Circle, Friendswood, Texas. I'm the fee developer for Section 5 of Bayou Lakes. As Mr. Malenson very eloquently put, we've got a chicken and egg situation with the new ordinances, then that CenterPoint Energy will not start the infrastructure process without a final plat. Ordinarily, that doesn't sound horrific, except for without even starting the process, they're a year out on transformers. We could have this entire subdivision on the ground in about 9 months and then be waiting an additional year to have transformers installed. So we'd have residents basically staring at empty lots for a year. With your permission and the variance on this, your existing ordinance, it would be about a 3-month delay, which would not be horrific at all and would allow additional things to be tidied up. Usually it takes about a month and a half or 2 to get the final approvals on everything. So it's about a 9-month construction process, but in a couple months to get all the final approvals and inspections. It would greatly accelerate the sales process for the residents out there. One of the key things that I think a lot of the residents are looking forward to is having access to Cemetery Road, and to give that section 4, section 5, access out of the community in a different roadway than just the main entry road. That's it. Pretty
All
simple.
right. Thank you. All right. We have no public comments on this item, thus there's no applicant rebuttal. So we will adjourn the public hearing at 7:05 p.m. Move on to item 8D. Consideration and possible action to approve a request for a subdivision variance from Appendix A, Subdivision Section 6, Plat Requirements and Procedures, Subsection G, Final Plat, Subdivision Plat, requirement of the City of Dickinson Code of Ordinances, with such variance allowing the final plat to be considered prior to the subdivider completing all subdivision improvements and the administrative official approving or accepting the construction improvements. Do we have a motion on this item?
Move to approve.
So motion approved by Councilwoman Simpson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Simpson. Any discussion?
Have we ever done this before?
No, actually, this is largely being driven by the transformer kind of backlog for the electric utility. So I'll maybe let Mr. Ross kind of explain maybe some of the conundrum as well. But some of this is dealing with some of the policy of CenterPoint. Now, they're not the large portion of Dickinson. TNMP is a major portion of it. What I would say is that now, if you're asking, is this a common practice of cities? The answer is yes, largely because of some of these policy changes. I believe that on a recent subdivision in Santa Fe, they had to make this variance because of the exact same issue. So, but Mr. Ross, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Sure. Effectively, the power companies kind of have this overriding ability to stop construction or not to stop construction, but prohibit us from being able to deliver lots to the customers because they have their set of rules that they want to go by. Unfortunately, they got supply chain issues that are nationwide. So this isn't like something that's happening just in Texas. I have friends that are developing properties in South Carolina, Florida, and it's happening everywhere. And it's ironically mostly due to electric car manufacturers needing these transformers. So they've gobbled up basically what was the existing supply of the transformers that are produced elsewhere. And now they're trying to get back on top of it, but they're probably a year and a half away from getting back up into like normal operation, which would be maybe a 3-month lead time on the transformers. So as to Mr. Melanson's, cities across the state have similar ordinances to yours. There's alternatives for the developer to effectively file a payment and performance bond on their plats to allow them to get a final plat approved or recorded, specifically recorded in most of the Central Texas areas where I develop. So it's pretty common practice. Down here, this is starting to be new. League City's required it recently. Texas City's been requiring it for a few years, and now you've just changed your ordinances. So this is becoming the standard operating procedure, and I think everybody's just having to kind of figure out how to move through it.
Yeah, so what this probably would do for us as we're looking at maybe ways to massage the ordinance in the future is to allow for there to be that bond opportunity as being like an alternative to just like installation of the infrastructure. But right now we have it as the only option is the infrastructure has to be installed and inspected for it to come into our systems, and then we record a plat. So just kind of the economic realities of things clashing against what would be considered best practices in city governance is kind of where we're at.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I got one. So in other
Councilman
words,
Townsend.
if it wasn't for the transformer issue, this would have gone through the normal plating and all that. This is so they can get on the line and get the stuff ordered.
Correct. Yes.
Comments? Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, action items for consideration. Item 9A, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Dickinson, Texas, casting votes in the election of members of the Board of Directors of the Galveston Central Appraisal District for 2024 to 2025, providing for incorporation of preamble and providing an effective date.
I move to nominate Matt Doyle.
All right, we've had a motion to nominate Matt Doyle. Is there a second for that nomination?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilwoman Simpson. Is there any discussion on this item?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman Townsend.
In the past, we have, the cities have kind of gone together and kind of pooled theirs. From what I remember of this, but we only get X number of votes. And the cities being so small, so they kind of went together, pooled their votes so we could get at least one person that represented the cities. Did we reach out to other cities, or we just nominating Matt? And
I was going to kind of leave it. What I was going to say is I think is Matt a reappointment?
I think so. So in the past, I said maybe not last year, but the year before, I had somebody reach out to me and talk to me. I don't know if they reached out to other people on council, but they haven't done that too often.
well, we used to kind of handle it during the mayor and council meetings, if I remember correctly, when all the cities went to them. And then it was kind of discussed there to at least get a vote that represents the cities. I ain't got no problem with Matt. I don't have a problem with Gartman either. I was just wondering if we were trying to pull enough votes
Sure.
so we at least have a say out of one of the 5 people that's on
Yeah, I
that
don't
board.
think that hasn't really happened that way much in my experience. I know last year, I think it was Walter actually nominated Gartman and we voted for him.
Yeah,
So-
I believe because it's a reappointment, I believe that's because and I do know that Texas City is going to be putting casting lot there as well. But to ask if other municipalities, I have not had conversation with any of the other city representations other than Texas City.
Any other comments on this? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. right, item 9B, consideration and possible action approving a request for a specific use permit for a group home in a conventional residential zoning district for approximately plus or minus 0.31 acres located at 3025 Sherwood Oak Street, and legally described as abstract 19, Perry and Austin, Sir, Lot 11, Sherwood Oaks. This would be the second and final reading. Is there a motion on this item?
Move to approve.
It's a motion approved by Councilman Simpson. Is there a second?
Can we second and make sure that's approval with conditions that are listed on the item?
Councilman Simpson, do you?
Yeah, if
I think that's implied anyway, because that's
Thank you,
what's
just
on the
making sure.
item, but it's just for clarification.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we have a second by Councilwoman Simpson. Is there any discussion on the item? Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No.
So the vote would tie with Councilman Schick, Brantley, and Townsend voting no, so the motion fails. All right, we'll move on to item 10, executive session. Item 10A, consultation with attorney, section 551.071 Texas Government Code. Discussion with attorney regarding contemplated pending litigation and regarding matters protected by attorney-client privilege. We will adjourn into executive session at 7:14 p.m. which we have no actions from executive session. So we'll move to item 12.
Move to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Councilman Brantley, second by Councilman Schick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:32 PM. I was waiting for you, Mayor.